Hey, what's up? What's going on out there? I'm going to check out this video. It's talking about HBCUs and why they are struggling and what's going on with the funding and things like that. But I'm going to look at the video and get my 1-2 about it.
Historically black colleges and universities are a crucial part of our nation's history, and some of our country's most esteemed leaders, artists, and scholars are HBCU graduates.
From Thurgood Marshall to Oprah.
But due to low enrollment and lack of funding, the future...
That's true. Back in the day, so-called black people weren't allowed to go to certain universities, because of obvious reasons. That's why it was a large number of, talented, so-called black people back then that went to HBCUs. Now, you can go to whatever school you want to, whatever one you qualify for. So that number is getting basically dwindled down to a few. So you're not going to have like your top tier students going to HBCUs, basically,
of our country's HBCUs is in jeopardy.
Bennett College will make its case to keep its accreditation.
Why is the survival of our historically black colleges and universities so crucial?
HBCUs are the kind of nerve center of the black economy, the black church in many cases. It is the black middle class.
This is Ron Stodgill, Associate Professor.
I'm sorry, Ron, not anymore. Things have completely changed. If it was like matter of fact, before the Civil Rights Act, 65, if it was around that time, I'd be like, yeah, you got a point, but not nowadays, no.
Professor at the University of Missouri and the author of Where Everybody Looks Like Me, at the Crossroads of America's Black Colleges and Culture. Ron says the majority of HBCUs were founded after the Civil War.
Chiefly to educate the millions of African Americans who had been enslaved.
By the 20th century, HBCUs were the bedrock of black American life, turning out our nation's top black doctors, lawyers, politicians, and artists. But then came Brown versus Board of Education.
Yep, just like I was stating earlier before he said it, at a certain point in time, that was the biggest concentration of, so the majority of the talent for the so-called black people. But now, like I said, it's not like that. But I'm not gonna lie, like being on like a HBCU campus, being in that atmosphere at like a homecoming game is nothing like it. The camaraderie, the friendship, just the togetherness was it's just a great experience. And I would tell anybody to go there. If you want to go to a homecoming game just to experience that. It's a great experience.
Education in 1954, and with it, school integration, which meant black students could now go to any college they'd like. This caused some unexpected problems for HBCUs.
To be very candid and blunt, there are challenges on some of our campuses with enrollment, mainly because of integration.
This is Harry Williams, president of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. It's an organization that supports HBCUs, named after Supreme Court Justice and HBCU graduate Thurgood Marshall. It was founded
32 years ago by a lady by the name of Dr. Joyce Payne.
I am Dr. N. Joyce Payne. You can't ignore the impact that these institutions played on changing the fabric of the nation and changing the consciousness of the nation.
But the reason why HBCUs needed organizations like the Thurgood Marshall College Fund is that they were struggling. And many people didn't think HBCUs
really had a solidified place in America anymore, and they didn't think that they were relevant. They thought that they were outdated.
This is our colleague Taryn Finley, editor of HuffPost Black Voices and a proud Howard alum.
HU.
50 years ago, 90% of African American students attended an HBCU. Today, the reverse is true. Since 1989, at least 5 HBCUs have closed their doors for good, while many others are just barely getting by.
Cheney, the nation's oldest historically black college university, has been in a constant struggle to try and stabilize and grow after declining enrollment. And the students we spoke to are seemingly loyal to overcoming that struggle.
This is Cheney University, the oldest HBCU in the country. In the late 1970s, there were close to 3,000 students enrolled at Cheney. Today, that number is around 470. And this,
Wow, that's crazy. Like, it's just a total reverse of what it was. And like I was saying before, like, once that talent got sucked out of there and, you were allowed to go to whatever school you wanted to, I mean, that was bound to happen. But when so-called black people stuck together, you saw the results and you saw what happened, but it's not like that anymore.
is one of those students, Nina Simone Beaver.
I would say it's challenging to, one, make people aware of the importance of Cheney or that it even exists. And then if they do know about Cheney, they know the bad things. But focusing on what do we have? We do have people who care and want to make a difference.
One of those people is Aaron Walton, Cheney's fourth president in 10 years.
I came here actually on June 5th of 2017. I found a very fractured university.
The state of Pennsylvania has put the school on probation and threatened to pull its accreditation if it didn't get its enrollment up and finances in order, which is why President Walton, a veteran businessman, started to make changes.
One of the premises I think that you bring from the private sector is it's not personal, it's business. So when I arrived, I was able to look at things fairly objectively and not from a personal perspective, and look at what was the business implications of the changes that had to be made at Cheney.
Some of these changes, such as putting the football program on hold,
One of the most expensive sports that you have is football.
and laying off employees,
20 to 30 individuals.
were unpopular.
We've got a lot of constituencies that we're trying to deal with.
But ultimately, Aaron Walton believes he's fighting for the future of Cheney and for the future.
With Cheney, I don't know if Cheney is a private institution. I'm not too sure about that. But if it is, I know a lot of private HBCU institutions struggle with funding. A lot of the alums and that, pouring back into the school, or, they're not receiving certain grants. But like the public schools, I saw something where Tennessee State was supposed to get a certain amount of funds, but it was being allocated to like the University of Tennessee. And then I think it was like $2 billion or something like that. So that should just tell you where those people's mind frame is. Like, they don't give a damn about the so-called black people. They'll just be happy with giving you crumbs and just giving you niggas anything.
With students.
I have developed a great love for the students here at Cheney. A large majority of the students attending Cheney are first-generation African-American students and other ethnicities as well.
I'm the first person to go to college for one half, but my mom was first gen on her end, and she broke the cycle, and she's why I'm here now.
This is Megan Sowersby. She's in her final semester at Cheney. She's also Nina Simone's roommate.
The difference between learning Black studies at a different school and learning Black studies at an HBCU is when you leave the classroom, the Black studies doesn't end. You're facing a poster of Frederick Douglass, of Sojourner Truth, of Zora Neale Hurston. It's something that you begin to absorb.
That's another thing. What is Black studies? Like, Black is just a color. Like, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother video, but that whole Black studies thing, that makes no sense to me.
On a different level. And you are encouraged to do that here.
Which is why folks like President Walton are fighting for the survival of Cheney.
We're on the path to achieve that. And that.
Oh yeah, another thing I was thinking about, it's probably a lot of corruption at these schools too, taking money that's supposed to be allocated for the school and the students. Just a lot of corruption. I've seen that stuff going on over the years, in the news and things like that. So even if they're getting funds sometimes, the higher ups take the money, or whoever is on the board, quote unquote misappropriates the funds,
That's what's most important to me, is achieving the objective of a Cheney being here 182 years from now.
And folks like Taryn are fighting to remind the world what's at stake if we don't protect our HBCUs.
If we lose HBCUs, we lose a whole legacy, a whole history, a part of American history that we can't get back.
While leaders like Dr. N. Joyce Payne are working to support HBCUs before it's too late.
We can't afford to lose our institutions. I mean, I know that some of them are struggling, and so rather than focus on the challenges, we want to focus on the opportunities and make sure that our students have the tools and the skills and the the confidence and the tenacity to build their own corporations, to start their own businesses, to have an impact on the policies of this nation, to become that senator, that president. We remain committed to our mission. We're going to continue to challenge our students to be great. And from what I have seen, I'm very pleased that they're meeting the challenge.
HU, you know.
Well, that's the end of the video right there. And like I said earlier, if you get a chance to go to HBCU school, like a homecoming or something like that, great experience. And going to some of the schools too. I know Howard is a good institution. But as far as like the majority of so-called black people going to HBCUs, like it ain't a different world episode. That ship has sailed. You know, there's so many different schools nowadays, trade schools, historically quote unquote white schools or whatever you want to call it. Education online, like, it is what it is. You're still gonna have your staple HBCU schools like Howard, FAM. Certain bigger institutions like that are still going to be around. But as far as like some of the smaller ones, especially like the privately owned ones, well, they're not going to make it. I don't think so. But that's just my 1-2 on it. If you want to give your opinion, be my guest.